In this video, you'll discover the best methods on how to use intermittent fasting for serious weight loss. So you've decided that you want to lose some weight and you want to cut down on your belly fat. You've seen the different science-based articles that are basically saying, hey, the more fat you have on your body, the greater risk of disease that you have in your future. So one of the things you came across was intermittent fasting. And intermittent fasting is truly incredible to use as a weight loss strategy. But one of the things that you probably didn't come across are some of the best methods that you can utilize in order to amplify the weight loss impact that intermittent fasting has on your body. And that's what we're going to discuss in this article. We're going to talk about all the best methods that I have found over the years to really help increase fat burning on the body. And even at the end of this article, I'll talk about how you can modify the fasting hours in order to get the most out of them. But before we get started, I'm Dr. Zarowski, and welcome to the channel. If you're new to the channel, it's a pleasure to have you here. Be sure to subscribe, hit that bell notification, and join our notification community. That way it can help you excel your health and your life. Let's go ahead and dive in. What I want to do is just do a 6,000 foot overview and talk about what is intermittent fasting. So essentially, what intermittent fasting is when you're going and you're taking your meals and you're just crunching them down into a short period of time. If you look at a 24-hour day, you're fasting for about 16 hours, you're eating your meals within an 8-hour period. And of course, you can vary these hours a little bit in order to change the results that you're getting. Now, the other thing about intermittent fasting is, first of all, it's a strategy. It is not a diet, right? It is just simply a strategy in order to help improve your health. There's tons of benefits of intermittent fasting. And so this is a strategy that we utilize. It's not about decreasing calorie consumption. It's not about, all these different things you hear about. It's really just a strategy. And so let's keep it simple like that. If you want to learn more about intermittent fasting and you're not familiar with it, I'll put a link to a complete guide that I did in the description below. Let's go ahead and move on to the strategy that you need to utilize in order to burn fat. And the first one on our list is going to be high intensity interval training. Now, high-intensity interval training is essentially where you are going and doing heavy exercise in a short period of time. Now, what this may look like is sprints. It may be a full-body workout where you're doing like a squat and shoulder press with a bicep curl. There's so many different ways to do high-intensity interval training, and I'll put a guide in the description below here. But high-intensity interval training, in a nutshell, is high-intensity workouts done in a very short period of time, about 15, 20, 25 minutes. Now, when we look at high-intensity interval training, it works so much better than other forms of exercise for fat burning, and I'll tell you why. So the first thing is that it's going to really help burn through the stored sugar. It's going to help burn through these glycogen stores that are in your liver and in your muscle. Now, here's the thing. When we look at glycogen stores in the body, essentially what we have to look at is utilizing them so that we can actually start burning fat for energy. So we burn sugar for energy until these glycogen stores are burnt out. And then after that, we will start burning fat for energy. Now, the high intensity interval training helps you just fly through those glycogen stores. So you burn those up and you transition into a deep fat burner in order to really help skyrocket weight loss. Now, it also is going to help increase human growth hormone. This is very important if we want to increase muscle mass, bone density. It's very important for anti-aging, longevity, important for boosting good hormones in the body, and for boosting weight loss. Now, it also is going to help increase excess post-exercise oxygen consumption. So essentially, when you do this high-intensity interval training, you create an oxygen debt. That oxygen debt has to be repaid. And because it has to be repaid, essentially what the body does is it starts oxidizing fat for energy to repay that oxygen debt throughout the rest of the day. So as you go and you do this, 20 minutes of high intensity interval training, you essentially go and start turning your body into a fat burning machine. And when you combine this with intermittent fasting, it's going to help you just go so much deeper into a fat burning state. Now, it also is going to help decrease cortisol, and it may not decrease cortisol in the sense that you're thinking. So when you're doing intermittent fasting, this is a physiological stress. So it increases physiological stress on the body, but it's considered to be a good stress, right? What wouldn't be a good stress is intermittent fasting with an hour-and-a-half workout, okay? Because that's going to actually be a negative stress at that point. It's too much stress on the body, and that at that point it raises cortisol levels, and that starts storing fat. So doing your exercise in this very short duration and high intensity, it's going to help decrease cortisol levels compared to other exercises. Now, how often should you do it? It's important to do this not too often, all right? So I basically recommend doing it about every other day. On the days that you're not doing high intensity interval training, what I have people do is weight training, okay? Because if you're trying to lose weight, one of the things you're going to want to do is you're going to want to tone up, right? Let's say you have a lot of fat on your arms, you want to tone your arms up. So you're going to want to do some weight training. Even if it's not heavy weight training, do some weight training in order to tone your arms, your core, your legs, your butt, everything. So using high intensity interval training combined with some weight training is going to be really powerful, and the high intensity interval training is going to skyrocket that weight loss when you're doing intermittent fasting. You should do high intensity interval training when you are in a fasted state. That's where you're going to get the most benefit from it when it comes to fat burning. Now let's go ahead and talk about infrared saunas. Okay, this works really well too. One of the things I'll do is I have a little portable infrared sauna in my home. I'll wake up in the morning, I'll go jump in the infrared sauna for about 30 minutes to 45 minutes, and it really helps burn fat, especially when you're doing intermittent fasting. So I'll do this in a fasted state. It's estimated that a 30-minute sauna session will burn about 300 calories. There was a study where they basically took people and they had them do 3 times a week sauna sessions. They were 30 minutes each, and basically what they found is that over a 4-month period, it burnt 4% of their body fat, okay? So they decreased body fat by 4%. Now this was just using the sauna. This wasn't combined with intermittent fasting. Combine infrared sauna with intermittent fasting, it works incredible. Now, not everybody has one of these in your home. What you can do is if you go to the gym, you have a gym membership, typically the gyms have these at this point, so you can get a workout in, you can get a little sauna session in, all in a fasted state. You know, you can do a high intensity interval session and a 30-minute sauna session all under an hour, and that's truly incredible for fat burning. Now, another thing that's important is a little hydration tip here, okay? This is something I've learned the hard way. Now, if you're going to do the sauna session, if you're going to do intermittent fasting, if you're going to be following a low carb diet, you're going to want to make sure that you're getting lots of water in. You need to hydrate well, and I personally have to use an electrolyte powder, okay? If I do not replenish with a lot of electrolytes, I do not feel well, and it's not a good situation for me. So what I do is I take an electrolyte powder along with lots of water during this time in order to make myself feel good and make sure that I'm keeping my body, you know, functioning properly. I'll put a link to the electrolyte powder that I use in the description below, but a hydrating electrolyte powder is very important when you're combining all these different techniques together. Let's talk about a low carb diet. Okay, so you've probably heard, well, the ketogenic diet is great for burning fat. Well, there's also just a low carb diet, and there is a difference, okay? Now, when you're doing intermittent fasting, it's so important to make sure that you're utilizing the proper diet. And here's why. Because basically, when you utilize the proper diet when doing intermittent fasting, the first thing it's going to do is it's going to decrease transition time. Okay, what that means is that if you're a sugar burner and you want to transform into a fat burner, then, and you're doing so well in a fasted state, you're going to want to do it as fast as possible. Now, if you're following a high sugar, high carb diet, you're going to have much more glycogen stores than the person who is not. So essentially what that means is that after you stop eating and you go into your fasting window, you're just going to be burning all that sugar that's in your body for hours on end. Now, if you're eating a healthy diet and you don't have all those glycogen stores and you don't have all that sugar floating in your bloodstream, essentially what happens is you will transition into a fat burner much quicker. So you want to follow that high quality diet in order to transition faster, so you're burning fat during that whole fasted window versus, you know, maybe you fasted for 16 hours and a good 14 to 15 of them you were just burning glycogen storage. You don't want to be doing that. You want to actually, you know, burn glycogen for a couple hours and then go right into a fat burning state if you really want to amplify that weight loss. And so it also is going to help stop the blood sugar instability problem. A lot of people who are fasting go through hypoglycemic and hyperglycemic patterns, especially if you're someone who's coming from maybe an unhealthy diet, you're looking to lose that weight, there's a greater risk of you having this if you're not following a really good quality diet during this time. And when you're fasting, you'll feel terrible. You know, you'll go into dizziness spells to, you know, crashing. It's not a good scene. So we want to make sure that diet is on point for weight loss, but also for your overall well-being while fasting. It's going to help stop hunger pains, and you're essentially just going to burn more fat. Now, when we look back to the diet, okay, I said low carb, ketogenic diet, what do? Either one of them is great. If you want to amplify weight loss to the fullest, following the ketogenic diet on the intermittent fasting plan is going to be the best way to go about it. If you want to just follow a good healthy diet, you don't want to deal with measuring your blood ketones and all the little variables that come with that and measuring your macros, following a good quality low carb diet is really good. Now, there is a difference. Ketogenic diet, you're going to be doing about 50 grams of carbohydrates or less, and on a low carb diet, you're going to be doing 100 grams of carbohydrates or less. And some people say, well, 100 grams, that's a lot. Well, when you consider the average person consumes around 300 grams of carbohydrates per day, 100 grams is not that much. And when I talk about consuming 100 grams of carbohydrates, I'm talking about high quality carbs, okay? The carbs that you get from vegetables, the carbs that you get from sweet potatoes, those types of carbs, not white bread, rice, pasta, that kind of stuff. And so we want to make sure you're following a good quality diet, no sugar, no grains, and that's how you're going to amplify weight loss and get the best results when intermittent fasting. Let's move on to the next technique here. Now, you can extend your fasting hours. I had talked about your standard intermittent fasting is 16 and 8. Now, if we were to think of this here right now and we look at a scale, okay, least fat burning, most fat burning. So if we're doing 16 and 8, essentially we're gonna get the least amount of fat burning. We're still gonna get great fat burning. So don't discount and go, well, if you're not going extreme, you're not getting results. No, you will get results with 16 and 8, and you'll get good results, especially if you add in a lot of these other techniques that I'm talking about. 16 and 8 is gonna just be amazing for fat loss. Now, if you want to get more out of it, you can do something like 19 and 5. Okay, so you fast for 19 hours, eat your meals within a 5-hour period. This essentially gives you 5 hours to eat a solid, good 2 meals. Now, the other thing that you can do is do something more around 1 meal a day, and that's going to look more around fasting for 22 hours and eating your meals within a 2-hour period. Now, this is something that a lot of people like, but one of the things that everybody struggles with to a certain point with 1 meal a day is how do I consume that much food in 1 meal? But if you're doing 22 and 2, what you can do is basically have almost 2 meals in 2 hours. 1 meal at 1 hour, and then just wait a little bit and have another meal the next. And so that's one way to do it. So versus just trying to have one huge one, try to break it into 2. Now, these are the ways that you're going to really amplify fat loss. Like I said, the least amount of fat loss, the most amount of fat loss. And that's just because you're putting yourself in a fasted state for a longer period of time. If you're using these other methods, like the fat burning is going to be insane. And the cool part about burning fat when intermittent fasting is doing it in a healthy way. And what I find is that people who actually burn fat in a healthy way have less saggy skin, they have less cellulite, the whole deal. So you just basically lose fat more gracefully and look a lot better when doing it by healthy diet, intermittent fasting. Let's move on to the next technique. The next technique here is going to be cold therapy. This is really interesting here, and it works really well, and I'll tell you why. Now, there's a lot of ways that you can do this cold therapy, which I'll get to in just a moment, but some of the reasons that it works so well for amplifying the fat burning during intermittent fasting is because it speeds up your metabolism. Now, the other thing that it really does is it activates brown fat. Now, brown fat is a type of good fat on the body. When you're born as a baby, you have tons of brown fat in your body, but it diminishes as you age. Now, brown fat is a special kind of fat that's around your sternum, your clavicles, your upper back. This brown fat actually burns white fat. So the more brown fat you have, the more fat burning that occurs within the body. So it's going to help burn the white fat, that's the goo around the waist and the goo on the legs that you're trying to get rid of. And so by doing cold therapy, you activate brown fat, increase white fat burning. Next is it's going to help decrease your blood sugar, okay? One time I was actually plotting my blood sugar, just seeing what happens. As soon as I added in cold therapy, bam, it just dropped like crazy, because what happens, your body's just expending a ton of energy in order to really keep the body warm. So the cold therapy is going to help drop that blood sugar. It's going to help burn through glycogen stores. Doing this in a fasted state really helps amplify weight loss. I find that when doing it when fasting, I get a much greater fat burning effect. So give it a try and do it in a fasted state. It works really well. There's a couple ways you can do it. First of all, you can do cryotherapy. You know, there's these different places that you get into this little chamber and they blast you with a whole bunch of cold air and it drops your body temperature down. That's one way you can do it. You can do it by taking cold showers. I like doing it this way. I'm a little bit more on the old school side of things. I do cold showers. I like doing ice baths, and I also will do ice vests, okay? Ice vests are essentially this vest that you can get. You wear it when you're working, wear it around the house, and what it does is just lowers your core temperature, which is gonna help increase brown fat. There's been studies on all of this proving that this works really well for fat burning, and it is a really positive thing that you can utilize when doing intermittent fasting in order to help burn your fat. Now, when we look at all these different methods, you add these to intermittent fasting, you're gonna get great results. You're gonna amplify those results, and it works so well. Check out all the resources I put in the description so that you can further educate yourself on all these different topics I talked about. And also be sure to give this video a thumbs up. If you have any questions, put it in the comment section here below. And also subscribe to my channel if you want to learn more about exercise, fat loss, autophagy, fasting, reversing health conditions, nutrition, you name it. And hit that bell notification so you're locked in and you never miss another video. And then lastly, check out my other videos that are going to really help you improve your health. And then I'll see you in the next video.